You know, airplanes are a fun way to get where you're going, and usually they're a pretty fast way, too. But sometimes in crowded airspace, you have to enter a holding pattern. Now, flying a holding pattern isn't all that difficult, but pilots sometimes do get confused about how to enter one. So let's say you and I are flying east on Victor 208, about to reach Julian Vortex, on a heading of 075 due to a wind from the northwest, and ATC says to you, November 359er Echo Sierra, hold northeast of Julian on the 007 radial, right turns, expect further clearance at 1745, time now 1733. Well, that means we'll do about 12 minutes of holding. Now, the problem we're immediately faced with is, where am I going to hold, and how am I going to get into that holding pattern? Now, here's where a good old pencil will come in handy. Now, since the holding pattern is not shown on the chart, I'll just draw it myself. Now remember, when the controller gives you holding instructions and says directions like northeast, the controller is telling you where the inbound leg of the holding pattern is located, not where the racetrack pattern will be. Now, as you know, the 007-degree radial of the Julian Vortex extends north and slightly east. So what the controller is telling me is that the inbound leg of the holding pattern will be on that radial. All right, I've got it. The inbound leg will be on the Julian 007, and when I get to Julian on that leg, I'll make right turns. Now, the big question is, how do I set up my entry into the holding pattern? Now, you remember there are three ways to enter a holding pattern. You can enter directly, or you can make a right or left turn to stay in a protected area. Now, for a standard holding pattern, if you have to make a right turn, it's a teardrop entry. If, on the other hand, you have to make a left turn, it's a parallel entry. Now, in this case, I can't enter directly, and I'll have to make a left turn to stay in the protected area. So it's a parallel entry. That means when I cross the fix, I'll turn left and fly the reciprocal of the inbound course, which is 187. If there were no wind, then I'd fly an outbound heading of 007. Now, I am forecast to have a wind of about 25 knots from the northwest, so I'll set up a crab of about 5 degrees to the left by taking a heading of about 002 degrees. Okay, here's Julian. I'll start my time and turn left to a heading of 002.